Harry, bro, you need to answer this, okay? This is a very important thing. If you were forced at gunpoint to pick an animal for a fursona and wear a suit of it, what animal are you picking?
Oh, Christ. Good God. What a way to start. Okay, what is an animal? I'd go for something like a lobster.
Ooh.
Because then I could pass it off as not actually being a fursona.
A lobster fursona. Actually, yeah, you could probably just be like, I'm just a mascot for the Golden Corral over there. I'm
just hey, shrimp cocktails, $5 today only.
I mean, everyone would probably just think you're on drugs. Because imagine going to like a furry convention and seeing a fucking lobster.
Yeah.
It's the Jump Cuts. Sit down and chill with us. Talking about making stuff. So now let's discuss. It's the Jump Cuts. It's the Jump Cuts. It's the Jump Cuts. It's the Jump Cuts. Enjoy.
Well, just imagining going to a furry convention in the first place is a wild enough ride.
I mean, if we're gonna, like, besides the furry shit, what's your favorite animal in general? If you had to pick, it could be as basic as a dog, or you can go out there.
Favorite animal? That is a tricky one. I mean, I'm a fan of the crustaceans, hence I probably why on some Freudian level went straight for lobster.
Big lobster, I see.
Always a fan of the water bear.
The water bear?
Tardigrade, the little microscopic.
Oh!
There's kind of weird, they kind of look like a pig,
the little,
kind of look like an elephant.
The little invincible fucks, yeah.
Yeah, they got like 8 or 10 legs and they survive in outer space. They're absolutely insane.
Holy shit, I forgot these existed. Okay, you might have beat my favorite animal. Holy.
Water bears are insane. They literally, they survive solar radiation, the vacuum of space. Like when they go into their weird kind of invincible fugue state, they just
they don't do anything. They just exist.
Yeah, they just kind of turn into a lump of rock or something, and then it's like they can just survive infinite heat, infinite cold. They don't need anything. They just keep existing.
So your favorite animal is essentially just like a rock.
Well, pet rock I could also live with. Stick some googly eyes on a rock and you've got yourself a friend for life.
Fucking actually. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we're here for a very special late night podcast episode because I decided that I wanted to talk to someone on the other side of the fucking world. Everyone say hi to Harry Gold.
Hey.
And welcome.
This is he.
This is the man himself. I'm glad I actually decided to do this because I couldn't have picked a more fucking interesting person. Because you look at the stuff you do compared to anyone else that's known about as much as you are. Fucking next level.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Of course, man. Like, if you guys don't know Harry, right, you don't know his channel, he's an artist, an animator, graphic designer, and he'll make these videos where, for example, his most popular one you've probably seen, using AI to make Pokemon. But he's also made other bangers where he just like fixing problematic pictures or making Sonic OCs. Your channel isn't really like a YouTube channel, it's more of like a TV show, right? Or like a program?
Well, that's because obviously we've got the whole sort of old-fashioned aesthetic, so that was a bit sort of like old variety show, kind of a big part of the thinking, little bit talk show. I
love the vibe of it. Every video is like the same sort of energy. It never really depletes. How long have you been making videos? Because this is like really good quality.
Somewhere between 2 and 3 years now, at least as far as this as far as the Harry Gold show goes, because I did not really have much in the way of an online presence before that, like a kind of very sparse odds and ends. It was actually some stuff I was doing for work. I was kind of a bit YouTube-y that made me think, hey, I might actually be able to do this.
That's awesome, man. I mean, yeah, I saw before on like your bios and shit that you used to work for like, do you still do work for Madden magazine, or is that not a thing anymore?
Unfortunately not. No,
yeah.
They kind of, basically, the budget just fell out everywhere, universally, because unfortunately magazines are just kind of going the way of the dodo. And so they can't, like, Mad Magazine, basically, both the US edition and the Australian edition, they don't have a budget for making new stuff, so they reprint old stuff still, but unfortunately that's kind of the end of it for the new stuff. So that was also a big part of why I went onto YouTube, because I thought, hey, I've still got all of these ideas, I've still got all of this stuff I want to make, and a whole bunch of my videos are actually started their existence as Mad Magazine articles, right?
Oh.
Like I did the one about the life of Homer Simpson. Started its existence of, I wanted to do an article for Mad that was like a retrospective of Homer Simpson for when the Simpsons turned 30, right?
I see.
The whole gag of it being that his career goes back way further to when he, started off as an actor in Popeye cartoons in the 1930s and have him, done with the rubber hose arms and the pie eyes, moving forward to making him look like a Disney character in the 1940s and a Looney Tunes character in the 1950s, and like he was on the Flintstones in the 1960s as a bit player in the background, traveling all the way forward to finally getting his show in 1989 and hitting it big.
So it's like you're just carrying on basically the legacy of what you used to do, and it's just you're making like a new format to where it's more modern and like a lot more people can enjoy it.
That's pretty much the idea. That's also because I do a caricature at the end of every video and get people to guess who it is, and that's also a big part of that same. There's all of these things that I love that have kind of fallen out of fashion, right? Like Mad Magazine is something that I love. I've got a huge collection of them. I used to work for them for that reason, but that's all kind of fizzling. And caricature is another. It's an art form that I love. It was huge in the early and middle 20th century, but at this point, it's something that's just not because magazine, because it used to be, you get newspaper cartoons and magazine illustrations and all of those sorts of things where you would feature all of these caricatures everywhere. But because all of those things, newspapers are shrinking and disappearing, magazines are disappearing, so everyone who made use of that stuff is disappearing, and now all the new things that have risen to replace them, right? Okay, you don't go on a newspaper, you go on a website. But the website, you're not seeing that many caricatures on freaking salon.com or Huffington Post. Part of my goal was, my little sort of dream is that I'd like to take those things and make them cool again, right? But in my own, in my own world, say, hey, this actually is something worthwhile. This is something kind of neat. It's just kind of fallen out of fashion, and the dream is to make it fashionable again.
That is fucking cool. Okay, I was not expecting a whole a goal, but hearing that from you is fucking awesome, and it makes me like understand a lot more of your channel. Because at first I thought you were just like, oh, I can do art, I can turn this into content, but like wanting to bring that back sort of style is awesome, man. You should get paid for this. Make sure you sell out, okay? Because you need this. You deserve this.
That is 300% the plan. Raid Shadow Legends. You know where to find me.
What was the story like? You getting into Mad? Well, you starting to work for them. Did you just like really like the comics growing up and then slowly start to work your way into that field?
So when I was little, somewhere around late grade school, early high school, where I was, there's no middle school. My dad showed me this book he bought years and years ago, which was a book of caricatures by an artist called Al Hirschfeld. He had this really neat art style where he'd basically his whole thing was super simplified caricatures. So he'd draw a face in 4 lines.
Ooh.
And you'd be like, I know exactly who that is. That's Whoopi Goldberg, that's Frank Sinatra, but he would just do it in bam bam, and he made it look like it was just dashed off so effortlessly, and it blew my mind when I was little. And so as a result of getting into that and that's when I thought, hey, I want to do that. And I started it, and I was terrible at it. When I first tried, could not get a drawing to look like someone to save myself. I kept at it, and as a result of that, again, Dad, so thank you, Dad.
Shout out, Dad.
For all this. He was like, hey, well, when I was little, I used to read this thing called Mad Magazine. I found an old one in an op shop. I get this magazine, and it's just full of all sorts of, the illustrations in these things, I thought, blew me away. They'll take, one of these old movies, it'll be The Terminator or whatever. They say, but hey, I can tell who every single, that looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? That's amazing. It's this cartoon figure, but it looks just like him, right? Then, once again, just kind of immediately fell in love with I just thought that this was so cool, doing all of these drawings like they do the old James Bond movies, and be like, wow, that is Roger Moore. Eventually, I got to a point where I thought, when I was about 17, I thought, hey, I feel like I can draw a competent enough likeness that I can at least convince myself I might have a chance if I try to apply. What I did was I sent an email to an Australian artist who worked for the Australian edition first, and then was actually, his stuff was so good that he got headhunted by the American edition.
Sure.
Said, hey, we want you to work for us. And so he did stuff like, he drew, when they did like a movie parody of all the Twilight movies, right? That was that was him that did that. So that was a pretty, it had like Edward Cullen on the cover. It was a pretty high profile gig. So I sent him an email. I wouldn't even know where to start. So if any pointers you could give me in trying to follow my dreams and get into Mad Magazine would be very welcome. And his advice was, hey, just, this really polite email you've just sent me, do the same thing, but send it to the editor. And that's the best shot. Because, like, there's, I went into it knowing there's no, like, secret. You do the right secret handshake, they'll let you right in.
Right.
But I think I lucked out. Sent an email to the editor with an example of an idea I had, which was You Are What You Eat Celebrity Edition. So they were all like, Mark Zuckerberg and Stephen Hawking are eating a pack of nerds. Like the candy.
I see, and you just leave them the same.
Barack Obama is eating the big cheese. That sort of thing. They're all just food puns, right?
Yeah.
That was my
Oh man.
that was my shot.
I want to see this.
And he presumably they had like no one better around at that particular moment, because they were like, yeah, I guess we got a spot to fill. I'll take it. That was it. And I just kept sending stuff to him, and he kept buying it and putting it in the magazine.
That's awesome. And just slowly progress from that point?
Yeah. Well, I just, then eventually the budget started to dry up, so I pitched the idea of doing some smaller segments. Every edition of the magazine has this little section up the very front with a bunch of little tiny gags.
Right.
So I was kind of doing some smaller stuff for that. I just kind of want to keep my hand in, right? I don't want to just drop doing stuff for the magazine altogether. And he was like, yep, that's cool, we can do that. But then eventually the whole thing just fell apart.
Yeah, and you talking about Mad gives me so many memories back to like looking at those little books I would have, or just going on to late night, like Cartoon Network, or just the Mad TV show where it was like basically Robot Chicken for kids. And
it really was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would just take like any cartoon character and put them into this weird, wacky scenario that they wouldn't be in usually.
They did a couple of good ones. I remember thinking they did Avenger Time.
Avenger Time?
With the Avengers merged with Adventure Time.
That sounds fucking cool. I wish I had a good enough brain to remember it.
Because that was a lot of the shtick they did on that, I remember, is they liked mashing things together. Like they did CSI Carly. And they did, I'm struggling to think of another one, but yeah, they liked just taking two completely unrelated things with a name in common and just
doing a mashup,
smash them together.
I see. I mean, there's also like the famous the Black Spy and White Spy that originated there. A lot of people don't know that.
Spy vs. Spy is a classic. Yeah, that's back in the 1960s. I want to say a guy called Prohias, who was like a Cuban cartoonist. Prohias. It was I don't actually know if I'm pronouncing that right. I've always just seen it written down and assumed that's how you say it. It was a Cuban cartoonist that fled Cuba because he made fun of Castro and the communists in his cartoons, and they were like, we will kill you for that here. And so he's like, I'm a head out. So he pieced out to America and wound up at Mad Magazine doing the kind of spy shenanigans, because it was, middle of the Cold War, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of a somewhat topical, that like neither of them particularly represented anyone specific. They were just like opposing spies.
Yeah, you could just pick one.
Yeah. Well, which is why also they kind of alternated who would win.
Right? I see.
There wasn't a good spy and a bad spy. It was like, one issue, the black spy would blow up the good spy, or the black spy would blow up the white spy, and then the next one it would be the other way around.
Yeah, and I'm looking at more episodes. Wait, let's see. There's like Agents of Smurf. The Captain America's Got Talent, Modern Family Circus. Yeah, they just take anything.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, and just smash it together.
I wish I watched more of it. I was too obsessed with my own little world of weird shit, weird cartoons that, I mean, I came a little bit after Mad was already starting to like go out a little bit. I came more in the more in the era where all the new shows were starting to pop up, like the new Teen Titans Go, or like the new fucking all the new bad ones, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's kind of the other way around for me, because, you know, I've got a good decade head start on life on you. So, yeah, by the time Mad TV came about, it was for a bit of a younger demographic than me, I think, but because I was, you know, in that Mad magazine world, I was sort of I was kind of keeping abreast of it, but was not really watching it faithfully.
I see.
I was at that point where it was like, I was following the artists who would be working on it, and that's how I would know about it, rather than watching it on television.
Damn. That is really cool to me, because just knowing someone that worked on something, because when you're in your childhood and you see things, you watch movies or you read comics, you always just imagine like this fantasy world the writers are in, where it's just like they're coming up with these huge ideas and this creativity, and like, oh, I want to be a cartoonist one day. I want to go up to work at Cartoon Network or something. Actually, that reminds me, because I used to like make these little comics, because you talked about how you sent them over to the editor and he wanted to keep on buying them from you. I had sort of a similar idea, but mine definitely wasn't gonna fucking work. So I would make these little comics of my favorite characters. Basically, I was trying to be a little writer. I was trying to send in my script ideas to the creators of SpongeBob and be like, yo, if y'all don't have an episode idea, look at this shit. And I would basically just like do a storyboard for free of a SpongeBob episode I made up. So these would include stuff like SpongeBob and the Flying Dutchman going to a place together, like this ghost party, and then he meets up with his ghost ex-girlfriend, and then there's all the kinds of shenanigans, and SpongeBob has to get them back together, and it was just devolved from that point.
It's getting some deep lore going there.
Yeah, I would just like add characters. Actually, I feel like I think there was this one where it's completely added like this whole section of. I was basically writing fan fiction. You know what? Now that I think about it, I was just sending people fan fiction. Damn.
Well, you know, I mean, to be fair, and this is the thing, the difference between like fan fiction and just fiction is like a paycheck. Right? Like it's like it's a fan fiction until they hire you.
True.
Then you're writing exactly the same thing, but it's a real Superman comic.
Then that shit's
or it's
canon.
a real, you know, it's a real TV episode. Because the thing is, in the real world, people who are already like, you know, an established script writer will be like, write a spec script where they'll just like, I have an idea for an episode of the X-Files. And they'll tap one out and they'll send it in, right? But because they're not just like some 13-year-old in Ohio, they're actually like, you know, a known LA, you know, professional, they've got a resume, then they'll actually get, you know, they might actually have a chance of getting in there.
Right.
Actually, I mentioned the X-Files. That's the one that comes to mind, because apparently I saw the other day, you know, the Final Destination movies?
Yes.
The first one started its existence as an idea for an X-Files episode.
Oh.
It was exactly that, where a guy wrote... Like, the idea, of course, was to fit in the X-Files world, so it would be about Mulder and Scully, but they would be interacting with these people who got off a plane flight because someone had a premonition, and then they've suddenly started dying mysteriously, all in a row, in the order they would have been killed on the plane flight.
Damn, I see.
But he was either... I think he decided like, actually maybe this would work better like as a standalone movie, and so that's where it ended up, and of course spawned a whole franchise.
Yeah, that's how art's born. Wow.
But so, you know, if you look at it in the right way, it started as Mulder and Scully fanfiction.
That's fucking awesome, man. So that gives me a lot of motivation. I wish I heard that when I was like a little kid, because I remember there was this one point where I was reading back something I wrote down. I was like, what the fuck? They're not gonna do this. I'm not gonna send this to goddamn the cast, and they're not gonna act out SpongeBob getting a divorce or some shit. Like, yeah, I gotta think a little bit smarter. Yeah, no, and I just, because cartoons like that always inspire you to do something on your own. You know, watching movies where people would sing inspired me to start singing, try making music. Movies where people would, animated movies would make me want to try to start drawing, to do animation, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's where, like, because everyone starts with, or pretty much everyone starts with what is essentially fan stuff, because that's what you're immersed in when you're a kid, right? So you're like, oh, I'm watching whatever cartoon, so I'm gonna draw SpongeBob, I'm gonna draw, Superman, I'm gonna draw, right? And so that everyone does that when they're a kid.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a matter of, if you keep pushing into it, you start going, well, hey, instead of just drawing someone else's character, I could maybe try drawing my own character. Right? And then maybe do something with that. And, like, obviously, the world needs both, because, like, someone's got to write SpongeBob scripts, right?
Facts.
Not everyone... There's only one Steven Hillenburg, and he hasn't written a SpongeBob's episode... I don't know if he ever wrote one. If he ever did, the last time was 20 years ago, right? So, someone who didn't create SpongeBob is writing SpongeBob still. That's how characters work. But at the same time... I think that creative drive has eventually got to get to a place where if you can't get hired by somebody else to do their thing, you got to do your own thing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because, like, we live in a world of creativity, basically, where if your idea is good enough and you push it hard enough, then eventually some people will take it on. Some people will like it, resonate with it, maybe add on to it, build a whole universe around it, and then fuck it, boom, movie, easy clap. I mean, sure, that'd take years, but I mean, it's still a thing you could do technically.
And that's the beauty of the internet, is it just kind of, even if your odds are still pretty slim, they're just that little bit less slim, because it's just that little bit easier to get stuff out there, and it's that little bit easier to it's a lot easier to get stuff out there, but that still doesn't mean, like, hey, I put a cartoon on YouTube, hey, Disney, give me a movie deal. It's not going to be quite that simple, but it means, like, because people are essentially able to self-publish much more easily, you can get stuff to people and have a sort of a proof of concept that says, hey, I made these animations on YouTube and people actually liked them, so then you can go to a network and say, well, hey, I now have a track record.
Oh, yeah.
Because once upon a time, in order to have that track record, you already had to get approved by a network to put something on television.
That's insane.
Whereas now, something that they would never approve, because they're like, that's too weird, I don't get it. But if you put it on the internet and people actually like it, you can say, well, you may not get it, but clearly there's an audience for it.
Yeah, it's like, you need to just not give up, essentially. Like, if I was going to give advice to, like, a young artist, I'd just be like, don't give up. Because people like Bo Burnham were singing in his room on YouTube with this little dinky guitar, and now he has, like, multiple Netflix specials, and that he's like the most popular comedian in the world.
Freaking Justin Bieber was just some kid putting songs on YouTube, and Dr. Dre was like, hey, I think
insane.
This kid might have something.
That's still insane to me.
Oh, it's absolutely... I mean, it's weird enough as a combination of people. Like, because if you think back to what Bieber was originally, not what he is now, when Bieber was this, like, squeaky clean little kind of Canadian Christian kid singing, kind of sappy love songs for tweens, right? Dr. D.R.E. that came on and was like, yo, kid, I'm gonna take a break from, making music about capping people, and, I'm gonna give you a music deal.
Just thinking about that.
And make you the biggest act on the planet.
That visual of just, like, little kid just singing in his room with his nice, cute family. You're like, yeah. And then Dr. Dre coming off of working on an album with, like, goddamn Eminem and Real Killers. He's like, I see something in this shit. I see something in this kid. We can make this work. And then he made the biggest song of all time. So, I mean, GG, maybe just has an eye for stuff like that.
Well, I mean, Dre's doing something, right? I mean, he's like, everything he touches turns to gold.
Basically,
so.
man.
the man's got something figured out. Whether it's, you know, from headphones to musical acts, he's doing something right.
True, his headphones are ass though. What's it called?
I've never used them.
Oh
but
yeah, no, don't.
They succeeded, so you know, whatever he did.
It was definitely, like, looking back on that, it was the marketing for sure. Because, like, you know, it's Beats by Dr. Dre. They have epic bass. Cool. They have a rapper attached to it. But in reality, they were kind of overpriced for what they were. At least from my experience. It was just fucking...
Oh, absolutely. Completely unrelated to that. Dr. Ray J, if you are listening, Raycon's sponsorship absolutely open.
You see, Raycons, those work. That's how you make headphones. What's it called? See, now I'm thinking about a lot of idols, because you said, like, how everything you touch is turned to gold. Do you have anyone you aspire, anyone you think about of, like, that guy's a fucking legend in what I'm trying to do?
There are, yeah, I mean, in various aspects of what I do, like, obviously there are artists whose work I see and it just blows me away, and I think, man, I want to do that. I want to be that guy.
Hell yeah.
Right? I don't know if I could narrow it down to, like, a single person, because, I mean, there are people who, you know, like, in the YouTube world, there are people who impress me. Markiplier is an interesting guy to me. Obviously, you know, very successful, a lot of people like him. He's got the ability to basically just turn on a camera and be entertaining. Just kind of like, it doesn't really matter what the hell he's doing. Goes and makes a video about smash or pass all the Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like 90% of the words in that video are either the word smash or the word pass. And somehow it's still an entertaining video.
Yeah.
And so that ability to just be like, take pretty much anything and turn it into something entertaining, that's something I admire a lot.
He's definitely...
And I would like to be able to do.
Yeah, he's definitely gotten that sort of point on the internet, because he's been around for so long and he's so big to the point where he's a meme. And basically, he does anything on camera, it's immediately funny because it's fucking Markiplier. Like, there's
exactly.
no one else that can be doing this right now. It'll be jarring no matter what.
Just, you know, he's just got that voice, and he's just kind of... Everything about him, you know...
Yeah, man.
It just makes it work. It all comes together.
And also, your art is it has like a huge variety of the type of stuff you can do. Do you have like I haven't really seen if you have like a specific art style that you stick to. I was going to ask if that's inspired by anyone.
Well, I could give you a very long laundry list of artists who have inspired me. On my channel, a big part of what I do, because I get a kick out of it, is I do a lot of stuff that is about imitating someone else's art style. Because I kind of, I have this thing with both caricature, which is why I like caricature so much, and with this art style stuff, which is why I do that. I get a rush from getting it right. Like, when I do a drawing... and I get to the end of it, and I think, that looks exactly like who I was trying to draw. That, I just kind of get a kick out of that, right? When I just achieve a solid likeness, because it's, you know, it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, it's satisfying when you finally just get it perfect.
Yeah, that satisfaction, drives me. And I have exactly the same thing with doing another art style. It's like, when I'm able to draw... a fake Pokemon or a fake Sonic character or any of those things that I've done, and I look at it and I go, if I finally get one that makes me think, if someone showed this to me and said it was a real Pokemon and I'd believe them, right, that's when I've done it, right? And it's just the feeling that I get from that is what keeps me going.
Hell yeah, man. Okay, I see now. I feel something kind of similar to you. Well, in a way that making sort of videos, having an idea, I like to watch a lot of videos of some of my favorite content creators, and they'll give me a lot of ideas of, okay, if I did something like this bit in a video, or I talked about something like this I enjoy in a video, and I get that satisfaction when I can turn that idea in my head into a physical thing that I could look at. Like, for example, with the Gumball video, I had the idea to make that like 2021, and I was down fucking bad back then. I had no clue I could even finish something like that. I had no motivation. I was like, one day, hopefully I can make that video. And that whole process of eventually actually getting to write it, getting to record it, getting to put everything together, and then uploading the first part and seeing people liked it was so surreal to like look at something you did. And it's so satisfying and pleasing to just know that, oh, okay, I can be proud of something now. And that's kind of what drives me to that point. And also inspirations for me. If I'm just going to think back, YouTubers, Nikki Jakey, of course, just a good reviewer, green screen guy all around. Obviously, like PewDiePie and Jacksepticeye. I feel like that's different type of YouTube. I feel like there's two types of YouTube. There's the consistent, and then there's the quality burst. I think the consistent guys like Markiplier or Jacksepticeye, they uploaded a lot, but they'd make your days better because they were consistently just funny and good vibe, and they're playing a game, you can enjoy it. And then
absolutely,
there's a people like Nikki Jakey where they'll upload maybe once a month, once every 2 months, once every 3 months, but when they do, holy shit, it's the best video you've seen in a while.
Yeah, well, for me, that was JonTron.
Oh,
right?
Good shout, good shout.
And I hate to, I feel awful, like, speaking about it in the past tense, too, because it's like, his newer stuff, I enjoy it, but, like, there was a kind of a period of time where what he was doing just really...
It really hit.
Struck the right note for me, like the Disney bootlegs video.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, but that was just one of the funniest... When I saw that, I thought, this is just the funniest thing I've ever seen on this platform, right? Like, it had me laughing out loud the whole time, right? And so, yeah, and it'd be like, it'd always be a long wait. It like, especially, like, he's famous for it, right? He'd go, like, 9 months between videos, but then he'd just throw something out there and you'd be like,
holy shit.
God damn.
It would go viral every time because it's fucking JonTron, like everything.
Yeah, it just goes freaking flex tape, right? That.
Oh my god, that was a sensation.
That was like, it was a sensation. Like, JonTron made flex tape a meme.
Well, let me check
right?
this, yeah.
And that is the best marketing you could ever get for a brand, right?
70 million views.
Yeah, if your product is a meme and it's not a meme for being bad, right? Like that's the, like, you know, you don't want to be like the Morbius thing where they're like, they think, oh, if so many people are talking about our movie, they must really like it.
Let's bring
like,
them
no,
too.
The joke is, the joke is everyone's talking about how nobody watched your movie. That's the joke. With the whole flex tape thing, Flex Seal, the whole gag was literally the tagline, right? It's like, the thing the ad wanted you to remember became the meme that everyone was spreading for free across the internet.
Actually,
right?
And people were actually buying it because Funny's tape.
I know. I wanted to. Here's a little point of frustration for me. I've wanted to do a video for 2 years now, which is now like, it's such a dead meme. I still want to do it one day. I wanted to do a video painting Phil Swift using Flex Seal.
Oh.
Right? And I still want to do it, but I just can't get Flex Seal here. I just can't. They sell a few products of his here, but they just don't sell the Flex Seal in a can. And trying to, like, they don't deliver internationally. And any time I've ever, like, gone on eBay or whatever, or Amazon to see if someone else is selling a can somewhere, it's like $1 bajillion plus another $1 kajillion in shipping, and then the exchange rate is abysmal, so then it's another $3 trillion on top of that. So
Fuck,
it's like,
man.
well, you know, I could blow a Mr. Beast budget on making this video about a dead meme that 3 people are gonna watch, or I could do something else. But I'll get to it one day.
Of course, man. I mean, I didn't even think about that because back when I was a little tyke, I was always thinking about getting this merch and shit. And I didn't think about the fact that if I was in a different country, shit, man, I gotta pay extra for them to even get me my shit unless the YouTuber is in that country. Because YouTube is so dominated by, like, the American side. We got a ton of couriers over here. Everything just ships nice, you know, nice and easy. Across a few states, it's all cool. But I know a lot, but there are less, like, Australian, YouTubers or just Oceania in general. Oceania. It's cool though.
There's a few, but yeah, not in the same vast numbers as the US.
Speaking of which, I think I only know a lot because this is kind of dumb. When I was little, I was so jealous of people with just accents in general. I thought they were the coolest thing ever. I thought my boring American was awful. So I would watch a ton of like British YouTubers to try and develop like perfect their accent. That shit would make no sense because I am a little boy in goddamn Chicago, Illinois. Why the fuck do I sound like I'm from goddamn Brighton? But oh man, I still think it's cool. But like I'm sure you guys hear each other like how I hear English now because you hear it your whole life. It doesn't have that charm anymore. It's just normal.
Well, for me, it's sort of the opposite. I find a lot of Australian accents to be kind of annoying.
Oh.
So it's actually, there's that weird like wall that your brain puts up because I find when I just hear people normally, because I'm used to it, like it's everyone, right?
Yeah.
So you just don't even notice the accent. But it's when I hear recordings of people and I see like when I hear an Australian accent in a movie or in a YouTube video, that's when it suddenly jars. And I get the same thing with English accents. I find there's a lot of annoying English accents.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but there's a lot of them that I find a little grating.
Fuck you, Britain, you're annoying, fight me.
I don't know, I think it's probably, maybe it's just being too immersed in American like media and culture. But it's just like, I hear American accents kind of sound neutral to me, and it's like everything else in media sounds like off.
I see. I mean,
it's because I think it's because it's just American accents are just so dominant. So it's like you hear something else in a movie and you're like, well, that's weird. Why is there a movie with an accent that doesn't sound like it's from freaking New York City? What's the deal?
Damn, I didn't think about that. And English is everywhere too. That is why there's a lot of English movies that go out to like Japanese audiences and all across the world, actually. I never thought of, because I've always wanted to learn a different language, and I've always had trouble picking where exactly to pinpoint my my brain to go. I'm thinking on going French. I don't know why. French just seems kind of an easy second language to know.
It's an interesting choice. You could, take a trip up to Quebec.
Ooh. Oh yeah, Canada.
And chill with all the guys that hate the rest of Canada.
Fucking French Canada. They hate each other over there. French Canadians get fucked over. France in general. Everyone hates France right now.
People they like to pick on France. And France likes to pick a fight with everyone else, so kind of works out.
And also, that actually reminds me. If you could travel to any place in the world, all expenses paid for any indefinite amount of time, where would you go? Because now I'm thinking all over the world.
I mean, if I gotta pick one place, I am a big fan of New York City.
Ooh.
Because I spent a few years there growing up. Because my parents won the green card visa that they used to have.
GG.
And which was just like ridiculous luck. Apparently, like, none of their friends believed them. They're like, "Oh yeah, sure." Like, who do you know, right? Who pulled those strings for you? But so the first 6 or so years of my life after I was born was spent in New York City. So that's somewhere I would definitely like to spend some time again.
Nice, man. It's interesting to hear that because going from someone who's been to New York a lot, that place is grody. That place is a stinky ass. I mean, it has a lot of sights and it has a lot of reasons to go there. But I'm sure you have the same feeling about when people say they want to go to Australia. It's like, oh, I want to visit the Opera House. I want to see all this cool stuff. But like you're in that area or you know that place, so it's not as magical to you anymore.
Oh yeah, everyone in Australia hates Sydney.
Damn.
That's, I mean, to be fair, there's always that kind of like everywhere, all the states are like, well, we're the best state and everyone else sucks. But there seems to be a lot of anti-Sydney sentiment.
How is it in Australia in general right now? How is it down there? Y'all are y'all chilling? Are y'all having a good time?
Things are all right in Australia. Economy's a bit of a mess, but like I feel like that's a pretty constant state.
Hey, America too.
Everyone everywhere.
Recession. GG.
Yep, it's like, all the prices are going to hell and the exchange rate is nasty at the moment. As I mentioned before, like, it is bad. I tried to, it is a solid, like, 1 to 1.5. It's like, you want to get something from America, even without shipping, add half the US price on top of it. Again, it is brutal.
God, man, I'm still thinking of either visiting there or moving there, because I do have a family member who a long ass time ago they moved to New Zealand and they actually started a family there because they were actually dating someone online, and they moved to New Zealand to live with them. Now they have they have like kids and shit.
Right.
And New Zealand sounds just like the chillest place on earth. Sure, what's it called? You hear rumors about sheep, but it still seems like a cool place. It still seems cool.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Australia and New Zealand definitely both worth visiting. I mean, there's plenty of as a generally like good places all around. I think you'll find that people are pretty good. The place is pretty good.
No racism.
Definitely worth checking out.
I definitely go to also Japan. I always say that for everyone, and everyone wants to fucking go to Japan because it's so different. It's a different place, man. And they got the Nintendo, they got the Pokemon Center, they got just Tokyo in general. I would love to just walk around there for hours.
Japan's an interesting one because it really is, at this point in time, it has become such a bit of a cultural phenomena in the West, where it's like everyone wants to go to Japan.
Yeah.
Everyone's so into Japan. I can't say I've ever, like, I have nothing against Japan. I can't say I've ever had that super, like, I gotta go. If there's one place I gotta go, it's Japan.
Harry Gold says, fuck you, Japan.
No, I mean, the other thing is, for me, it's somewhere I could not go alone because I don't speak Japanese and I have dietary requirements. So that's gonna be a problem. Right?
Yeah.
Anywhere I go, trying to go like, does this have pork in it? And they'll be like, I don't even know what you're saying, man.
Fuck, man. Yeah, because you never think about that deep if you don't have that shit.
Yeah, if I had someone that I could be with 100% of the time who can speak fluent Japanese, then absolutely I would love to go.
Yeah.
But until such time as I find this mystery person, it's gonna remain a what if.
Yeah, and it gets stranger for like other countries. I'd say what's it called? It would be hard to go to a place like in Africa or like somewhere in Chad, somewhere in Ghana, somewhere I do actually want to visit like an African country someday, but finding and hiring translators in that area, there aren't too many I've seen. I've seen that there's like a whole business between translators and going to different countries, but there are some countries where you cannot find a guy that that'll just take you around the place and talk to you and translate. So it is hard if depending on travel in general is hard depending on whatever country you want to go to. I know for me, Japan, I have such a connection with my childhood that I'd love to just go there, see the things, and dip. I don't even need to be there for that long.
All the stuff that Japan gets mad at you for, if that's your reason for visiting Japan.
Holy shit! Wait, do they get mad at Gaijins that come to Japan just like, oh, he just watches anime. He doesn't fucking care.
I've gotten the impression there's a little bit of that sort of sentiment over there that's like, oh, great. Another one, right? Another freaking weeb who's just like, watched a few episodes of Naruto and thinks he knows all about Japan now.
Where are my anime waifus? I don't see them here. That would be kind of weird if someone watched like Steve Irwin and immediately like, I gotta go to Australia, see all the wild creatures.
I mean, I'm sure that has happened.
Oh, probably.
Because like back in the 80s, there was a bit of an Australia boom in the cultural world because they'd made like a couple of Mad Max movies in the 80s and a couple of Crocodile Dundee movies are all sort of big hits in the US. So there's sort of a sudden bit of interest in Australia.
Right.
And they like in the Australia episode of The Simpsons, they have that bit about how Australia expected it to last forever and it didn't. And that's a funny episode, by the way.
True.
The Australia episode of The Simpsons.
W. So Simpsons.
Absolutely. I mean, that is something actually I always enjoy is the Australia episode. Lots of shows have kind of done the episode where they go to Australia. The regular show Australia episode is pretty funny.
I'm so glad you like those. I was afraid like if maybe the stereotype of Australia, everything fucking kills you, would get old eventually.
That's not a stereotype.
Oh,
that's
just real?
That's reality.
Oh,
that is
fuck.
That is everything wants to kill you in Australia, up to and including the locals.
Oh, god damn it, man. So you really could just go outside and see a kangaroo, and if he woke up on the wrong side of the bed, he will fuck you up. And there are spiders there that can bite you, and you're just dead.
I mean, obviously, you know, like the stereotypes, like it's one of those things like there's people who don't want to visit Australia because they're like, I'm just gonna die. There's gonna be a spider and I'm gonna die. In the same way, there are people in Australia who's like, I'm not going to America. I'm just gonna get shot as soon as I get off the plane. It's like, it's not really, like,
okay.
It's kind of, statistics are not, it's statistically improbable.
I get it.
You know? So, but yes, those things do very much exist here. Most of them, like the fortunate upside for living in the human world is most animals don't, you know, they're kind of scared of traffic, and you're unlikely to get all of these things invading your home. But I mean, they are out there. We do have spiders that can kill you. We do have at least one octopus that can kill you. We have snails that can kill you. We have what do we have?
You guys,
like all the famous animals can kill you. A kangaroo can kill you. A wombat can kill you. I'm pretty sure a koala can kill you.
You guys,
if you let it. They
drop
can be
bears?
very aggressive.
Do those exist? Is a drop bear a real thing? I heard that was a meme.
No, that's a joke that very annoying and smug Australians like to play on foreigners who aren't expecting them to be a jerk.
I see.
So they're all like, oh yeah, we have these things called drop bears, and they tell that to people who have no reason to believe you're lying to them. And so they're like, oh wow, really? And then all the Australians are sniggering, going like, oh, I can't believe they believe this lie I just told them.
This
that they have
stupid
no
American
reason to suspect is a lie, because we know it's a lie, right? Everyone in Australia knows there's no such thing as a drop bear, so they think everyone else in the world is an idiot for not knowing that, when no one really has a reason to care.
And dude, you guys also have the brown boner spider, the brown recluse, I think it's called, where it's like a tarantula that if it bites you, you get an erection for 8 hours and then you die. Yeah, I hear a lot about Australia.
That's a new one on me.
That's like,
it wouldn't surprise me, but I have not heard that before.
I'm glad you haven't encountered it in real life.
Yeah, I can confirm that 100%.
That gives me hope.
There are none of those in my neighborhood.
Bringing it back to Japan as well, I understand that if you go to a place, if you travel to a place, you need to be polite. You gotta respect the culture. You just gotta listen to what they say. You can't go there, you know, fucking what Logan Paul did back in what, like 2019, 2020. It was, oh, fuck you. Just running around the streets, screaming, throwing Pokeballs at people. That's just, that's what I imagine, like, the bad foreigner is. That's the worst level you can get. Just be better than Logan Paul, and you'll already be decent. It was awful.
Yeah. I feel like he might have mellowed out a little bit.
Yeah, well, he's redeemed himself.
Since that point in his life. I have to admit, I kind of like Logan Paul. It's one of those things, he cops a lot of hate. In his kind of doofus way, I find him to just be kind of likable. Right? It's like, just the stuff that I've seen of him, it's like he's like a doofus jock, but he's kind of a likable doofus jock. Can't say the same for Jake Paul. Jake Paul, not as big on Jake, but yeah. Logan Paul, I find there's something strangely likable about him to me.
Because
which I can only assume is the source of his, immense success.
Yeah, facts. Because I remember when I was little, I was like I actually watched the vlogs. I always preferred Logan's over Jake's because Logan's actually kind of just felt like he was trying to be entertaining, while Jake's just felt like he was flexing money or trying to way too hard to be funny. And it just wasn't it wasn't for me. Even back then, when I was a kid, I can tell like Jake was just off. Something about him. But you know, Logan did a whole lot of dumb shit. Still does a little bit, dabbles in the dumb today. But he's redeemed himself. Yeah. And oh shit. Oh god, I wanted to dive deeper on that topic, but I kept on falling off of it. Back to why I wanted to go to Japan in the first place. Fucking Nintendo and the games that raised me growing up. Because I already know that you've had involvement in something going on Nintendo related. I want to know what's your favorite game that you can remember. Favorite Mario game.
Favorite, well, the same answer. Favorite video game is Paper Mario and the 1,000-Year Door for the Nintendo GameCube.
So base, let's go. Such a good answer.
And it was always, and that was an interesting one for me too, because it was always one of those games that like I played it and I like fell in love immediately.
Oh man.
And then it felt like no one else in the universe even had heard of it, right? Like
I know.
I never knew anyone who knew what it was. And then finally, sort of getting out there onto the internet, at some point, it kind of started to come up occasionally, and there were people who were like huge into it, and that it was like it took ages to realize that game even had a following, right?
Yeah,
because it's just out there in people I knew personally. I'd never met anyone who even knew what it was.
Pretty niche.
And then you get out there and you got channels like Arlo. I am the guy that likes Paper Mario, and that is my thing. You're like, okay. Apparently, it's like it's a personality type out there on the internet.
It's so just thinking back on it. It's so fucking good because it was the game that I loved. A lot of fucking Mario games. I've loved a ton of just fun with the characters, hopping around, going around the world playing Mario Party. But I always wished they just have a little bit more personality because I really love these characters, and that's what Paper Mario did. The first one did it. It was pretty well received. I didn't really hear much about the first one, but 1,000-Year Door was the one. It was just the one. Oh,
well, that was the real strength of all the Mario RPGs, because there's the whole series of Paper Marios. There's the Mario and Luigi series of RPGs, and then there was just Super Mario RPG.
Oh yeah, there's Mario and Luigi. Yeah,
is just the nature of those games is that like, okay, we now are doing a game that has dialogue in it, which means we actually have to have a story. And we actually have to have personalities for characters. Yeah. And so that's when they sort of introduced all of these really interesting things, and the Paper Mario games especially, they brought a lot of humor into it, but they got really kind of creative, and they brought so much to the Mario world that made it suddenly feel more like a world, right? Where you could just talk to just civilians and, people in village, you'd be passing through this whole world and there'd just be a little village made of a bunch of toads, but they weren't just all regular toads either. They'd all have, they'd all kind of look different, and they'd all have
like little jobs, in personality. Yeah,
exactly. And they'd kind of, they did so much interesting stuff with that really kind of fleshed it out into a real world. Like the 1,000-Year Door especially, one of the really like tiny things in that I loved about it is that in the hub city that you come back to at the end of every chapter, and you start there again, there's like all of these characters in this little town. Actually, they all have a little story. Like if you talk to each of them in between each chapter, their dialogue changes and their situation evolves throughout the game.
So good.
And it's kind of got this way in which the influence of your character, just by you're literally just talking to them.
Yeah.
And, in a way that's like there's no dialogue tree, there's no choices to make, but your character is actually, and your story is just affecting all of these people. Like there's a family in the west side of town where there's like a family of toads where their marriage is on the rocks. The kids hate the parents. The mother has a gambling addiction.
Fuck yeah.
The father's a failed author with like writer's block who's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And it's like, it's like, which is like, this isn't a Mario game, right? They could only do something like that by making them these like pretty minor NPCs. But like by the end of the game, you keep talking to them, and it's like the father is like, I know what I'm gonna write. I'm gonna write a book about the adventure you just had.
Yeah, it evolves.
And then he's like, and then so by the end of it, he's a successful author. The wife's dealt with her gambling problem. The kids are happy again, and it's like, so it's like the game is full of stuff like that, and it's like that's something that you could miss. Like, this is not a mandatory part of the game. It's just by going and talking to all the NPCs that you even find that stuff.
Yeah.
But the game was full of it, and it made it feel like this is actually a world with people in it, right? Who have their own lives that are just kind of going on entirely outside of you trying to save the universe from a freaking alien invasion.
Gave it a shitload of replayability too. Like, I remember watching at least 20 Let's Players play that game, just because every time they play it, it'd be so funny to hear like their voices, their own jokes, their own like ways that they would go about solving the story. And then I got to play it for the first time fucking recently. I played through that whole game twice. It's so good. And I played the first one, and the first one was chill. And I remember
The first one's good too.
Yeah, and then there was a Wii one, Super Paper Mario. That one was pretty good, I remember. All right.
I recommend that one a lot. It's a game I've kind of come around with. I mean, I came around on it ages ago, but like when it first came out, because I was so into the GameCube one, they did one on the Wii, and then it was a completely different kind of game.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like it's a sort of a weird, like it's still an RPG, but it's like a side-scrolling, real-time.
Yeah, now you flip between
game.
3D and 2D and shit.
And it's sort of, and so at the time, I was like, this isn't what I wanted. This is annoying me. But like, I went back and played it, and I was like, this is actually still a really good game. Like, it's still got a really, the story in that game is nuts. Like, it's so complex. There's so much going on.
I see.
Right? They went to so much trouble figuring that game out. And so it's like, it's still, a really interesting, really compelling game.
I recommend it too.
I would not waste your time with a single Paper Mario after that.
Let's just touch on it really quick, because right after that, there was everyone thought that like Paper Mario was being left in the dust, but there was also Paper Mario Sticker Star, which I played on the 3DS. That game was okay. Then there's Paper Mario Color Splash, and the most recent, I'm pretty sure, Paper Mario the Origami King.
Yeah, these games are interesting to me because their big problem is Nintendo being at war with itself. Like, it has it's sort of inside Nintendo, there seems to be competing ideas of how they actually want to handle this franchise. Because on the one hand, they kind of they basically said, look, we've got multiple Mario RPG franchises. That's too many. We want to just have one. And so we've decided Paper Mario is going to be the franchise that we kind of change to be not quite an RPG anymore. It sort of still is, but it sort of isn't anymore.
Yeah, it's
And that's
weird.
part of the problem, where it's like, can't quite decide whether it is or it isn't. They're like, well, we're going to get rid of experience points. We don't need those anymore. And we're going to get rid of partners. We don't need those anymore. But it's still going to be like a turn-based battle game.
Yeah, it's so weird.
That it's a very strange set of decision-making. And in each successive game, they kind of like take a step forward and a step back. Like, they'll say they did Sticker Star, and Sticker Star was a super scaled back game in a lot of ways, and they made a lot of changes that a lot of Paper Mario fans didn't really care for. They broke it up into being just levels instead of being one big world. They made it so 100% of the NPCs are just plain toads.
Yeah.
Like, there are no new characters at all in that game.
Very
except
basic.
for the one, which is your sidekick. And it's like, there are no new enemies, no new bosses, no new characters. Everything is just a retread of a basic Mario character that has already existed. And then they did the sequel where they're like, okay, we'll make it a bit more, make the cast a little more interesting. We'll make the dialogue a bit more interesting. We'll make the story a little more interesting. But we're still not gonna go all the way. And furthermore, we're going to implement an absolutely terrible battle system that requires the Wii U hardware, because that was the biggest problem for that game.
Oh, yeah. Fucking Wii U.
It was the bizarre system where you had to do this stuff on the Wii gamepad, and the only reason that existed was, like, to justify the existence of the Wii U gamepad. It just made the game slower and harder to play. All the fights in that were, like, kind of boring and redundant, and they did this really bizarre thing where they made it easier to skip fights in that game, which kind of told me that they knew the battle system wasn't very good, because they made it infinitely easier to skip fights by multiple methods. They made the enemies easier to just walk around so they wouldn't fight you,
right.
And then they also made it easier to instantly, they added in this thing for instantly defeating enemies. You just touch them, and if they're weak enough, you just win without even starting a fight.
Jeez.
And it kind of made me think, so what they're basically admitting by doing that is, our battle system is not very good, and you will prefer to avoid using it, so instead of fixing the battle system, we'll just make it easier to skip the battle system.
We'll make this problem so you could, but you know what, we'll make it easier to get around instead of removing the problem.
Exactly. It's like saying, hey, what we did was put a brick wall in front of the front door to your house, but we made another opening on the side of your house so you can still get in.
It's like, why fuck?
Well, how about just don't put the brick wall there in the first place, right? You can say, but don't worry, we've now made a circuitous path to get all the way around to the front of your house so you can still get in there. But, like, you could have just made it all work in the first place instead of this.
Yeah, made a problem, made a solution just to make it seem like they improved the game.
The decision making in that franchise has been thoroughly bizarre, because they apparently, they said when they did the last one, the producer or someone did an interview where they're like, oh, yeah, Nintendo won't let us make new characters anymore.
Oh.
And we're like, what? Like,
huh?
Why? That doesn't make any sense. They Nintendo makes new characters all the time. Like, every Pokemon game is 150 new characters.
That's more plushies to sell.
Nature. It's like every other game. It's like, you just did Super Mario Odyssey. That's got lots of new characters.
Facts.
Why is this game you're like, no, we're not allowed to do that? But you used to do it. Why are you not allowed to do it? That doesn't make any sense.
That's insanity. And fucking Mario and Luigi's been left in the dust, that series.
Yeah, that's another one that they just like, 3 great games, 1 pretty good game, 1 lousy game, and then a few remakes, and then just died. It's like, okay,
as
great.
Most things die out.
And so, which is also bizarre considering, like, Nintendo's whole rationale for changing Paper Mario was that they had Mario and Luigi around as the other RPG franchise. And it's like, now we don't have Mario and Luigi, and we have Paper Mario that sucks. And so, like, now what? Now we've got, if you want a Mario RPG, you've got nothing. You can just go play an old one.
I still have, despite everything that goes on with how weird that fucking company is right now, Nintendo can pull through. I hear Super Mario Odyssey 2 is going to be like either 2023 or 2024, and I'm hoping it's going to be a fucking banger. That's all I'm really looking forward to, I'm gonna be honest. I already played Breath of the Wild. I'm not that excited for 2. It'll be good. But I'm kind of burnt out on Zelda. I played a lot of Zelda recently.
Metroid Prime 4 is the
Metroid. I'm glad they brought that back.
That's the one I've got my eye on, and they haven't said anything about it in quite a while. So I'm hoping that means we're in for something interesting sometime soon.
Oh, for sure.
And, Pikmin 4 they just announced as well.
Ah, right. A lot of people are excited for Pikmin. Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's the big upside to Nintendo is the same as their downside, is they're insane. Right? So, this is the bizarre thing. Every time they do something nuts, like all the stuff we've just been talking about, there is every chance in the world one day they will just change their mind again. Right? They're like, once upon a time, yes, we can make new characters. Now they're like, no, we're not allowed to make new characters. Yeah. And then one day they're just going to be like, actually, we can again.
Just hit it out of the park. They just will.
It's like they're just always like that. They're just like that. So that's the saving grace, is it's that, fingers crossed, they'll just one day come around and be like, on a whim, because that's how they just seem to do everything. It's just on a bizarre whim. They're like, actually, we're going off in this direction now. So one day they'll be like, actually, we've decided we're super into the way we used to do it. now, so we're just gonna go back.
Oh my god.
I mean, there's no guarantee it'll happen, but it is 300% possible. Because they like dig their heels in and seem like they've made a decision that is 100% the way things will always be forever, and then they just backflip, right?
Right.
They're like politicians. they just like their convictions just change on a whim.
YouTube is a politicians of video games. I mean, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. They're fucked up. It's in a weird point where you can shit on them a ton, but they also make bangers a lot.
Exactly. And it's like for all the stuff they do that annoy me, it's like
I want them to keep doing.
They still did the stuff that I love.
Yeah.
Right? And they're still doing stuff that I'm interested in. That's what makes them a strangely frustrating company, because you can't just dismiss them altogether.
You can't shake them. It's Nintendo.
Because there are other franchises and things where you just go, you know what? I give up. Right? It's like everything they do annoys me now. Like, I'm a big Star Trek fan. I like the original series. I liked the 4 TV shows that came out subsequent to that. I like the movies is a strong word. Like, the original movies is a strong word. Most of them aren't that great. But they're, like, serviceable. And then in 2009, J.J. Abrams is like, let's reboot everything. And the series just kind of never recovered, right? Like, as far as my interest in it is concerned, they like just changed it, and they keep doing stuff that I think is lousy. And it's like, okay, I watched 3 whole movies from J.J. Abrams. I watched all of Star Trek Picard. I watched all of Star Trek Discovery, bar like 1 or 2 episodes at the end. That was where I just gave up, right? I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna just keep watching this because I'm like theoretically a fan, right? I'm not going to keep putting myself through frustration out of loyalty to something that doesn't exist anymore, because the people who are doing it now are not the same people, and they have no interest in making what I would like to see.
Right, great things can get shittier, or they can start dying out. You don't need to have a loyalty for your entire life. If something you start to not like it, then you can just drop it, man. It does need to be a big thing. It's happened with a lot of YouTubers I know.
Yeah, that's the thing. You get to a point where you say, hey, you realize, hey, it's been like, I've been skipping every time they do an episode for ages.
True.
Why do I still subscribe to them?
Why do I still care? It gets to it's a sad point when it's a creator you really like and you like want to keep supporting them, so you like follow them on Twitter and shit, but you never watch their videos because it's not for me. It's not for me. I'm like that with a few people. I just want to keep on supporting the creators, and if there's a good company but I don't play their games, it'll be kind of the same thing. For example, Sega and like what they try to do with Sonic, they try again to make a good fucking Sonic game, and I'm there for the ride, baby. I might not play every game, I might not like every game, but I'm there with them. They actually support their fan base and try to get them in on projects like a Sonic Mania.
I want them to succeed. So
facts. They've been trying for so long.
I'm not even like. I am not a big... Sonic is one of those things where it's like, I kind of like the characters, but I've never really gotten into the games, particularly. I've found I don't think I've ever actually played any of the 3D Sonics. I've played some of the 2D Sonics, and I found them to be kind of frustrating, to be honest. Like, it's a game that wants you to go fast, but then it punishes you for going fast. You go really fast, and then you run right into an enemy that you had no way of knowing was there. And it's like... and it's like it wants you to go fast and build momentum, but then it'll do all of these kind of slow platformy bits. And so it's like that I always found just kind of a frustrating way to play a game. But nonetheless, I kind of like Sonic. There's that strange, like, I kind of like the franchise anyway. And I almost don't even know why. It's something about all the characters, I guess. Yeah. I guess, I've watched Let's Plays of the other... like a lot of the games I haven't played. It's like I want them to finally crack it. Right?
I totally get that. I want them to
finally do a 3D Sonic game that is just unimpeachable, right? That is just like a good game, and everyone agrees. Just has to sit down and say, you know what? They finally did it. This is just a good game. It's not broken. It's not buggy. It's not divisive. It's just like we finally figured out how to make it really work.
Seems like every Sonic game now. It's just that.
I want that to happen so badly, and I would probably not even play it if they did it, but I want it to happen.
I probably won't be alive for the day that happened. Harry, bro, Harry, it is getting very late. I think I only have one more question for you, man. It's just for the next guest. I always do this where like you have to ask the next guest a question, and I have to ask them it, no matter what it is. You have to ask a question that the next guest has to answer. Go.
What is the most awful question I could think of?
It's not really bad for them. It's bad for fucking me. I have to say it.
Need to like get up that button game.
Oh,
and, steal one from that.
Just do a quick. Would you press the button if I actually do go on this website? Maybe I might get inspiration. This one says you get the person of your dreams, but you may only drink water for the rest of your life.
That is, if you were lonely enough. I could like if you're like, hey, if this button guarantees like in the next 5 seconds that person is just gonna walk in my door,
pops up.
We're gonna like happily ever after. If you can guarantee that.
But no drinks, just water.
I could, I suppose the problem with those questions is they're always like, it's like, what do you mean by I can only drink water? Like, because it's gonna be a problem if that means like, I'm gonna spontaneously combust if I don't, right?
I can't drink medicine?
It's gotta be like, there's gotta be some sort of cosmic compulsion thing here, right? Where I'm just like, physically, you know, will not be able to drink it, right? So, like, I don't want a negative side effect.
I'm trying to think introspectively. I'm trying to think of something deep. Maybe make them reveal a secret.
Well, that's like, do they have to answer truthfully?
Well, no. I just ask a question and they'd say something. You know, I could take a face value. Depends.
Yeah. What is your credit card number? If you had to choose a country to wipe off the face of the map, which would it be?
Okay. Damn. Crazy question. Okay. That's actually perfect though.
I know, it's nice and loaded.
It's huge.
It's choose your answer very carefully, friend.
Choose a million enemies you can have right now. Holy shit, man. Thank you for coming on. Well,
thank you for having me.
Of course, bro. It's insane that this guy needs more attention. Plug your shit. Make them go. Make them see it.
Yeah. Well, it's the Harry Gold Show on YouTube. That's my main gig. I'd like to think I do some pretty fun stuff. We do comedy videos with a big artistic bent. A different kind of sketch comedy. We like to joke here at the Harry Gold Show.
The Harry Gold Show.
But yeah, otherwise, Twitter is @HarryGoldArtist. Same on Instagram. But, yeah, YouTube's mainly where you'll find me.
Yeah, everyone watching, maybe if you want to go see my stuff as well, that'd be cool. And make sure you tweet at Harry with various pictures of, what do you not want to see? Among Us edits of, you know